should be recording and live now. So, welcome everyone. Obviously, I have a special guest with me today. We have Diana Sheely. So, she has been a one-on-one client of mine for the past 6 months, and is just kind of wrapping up her 6 months of one-on-one coaching together. And just super excited to have her on and share her story because she's seen a ton of progress over the past 6 months, and not only that, has put in a ton of work and has really changed a lot of her habits on the inside and out, her mindset and also, her physical habits, interactions too. And I think her story, is going to inspire a lot of people to take that step into, bettering themselves and their health. And she's rocking, if you're watching the video, she's rocking the logo, the I Thrive Nutrition and Fitness t-shirt, which I love. So Diana, tell the audience like just a little bit about you. Like where you're from, what you do, what your typical day to day life looks like. Any fun facts too you want to share?
Sure, sure. So my name's Diana. I'm in Mansfield, Ohio. I'm 43, mother of one, married. My husband has a busy lawn care and landscape business that I sometimes assist with, but I work for Ohio Health. I'm a registered nurse by trade, but I am a liaison right now for Ohio Health, just sharing all the great things with the community. So, typical day, I do have a lot of seat time, whether I'm driving. Not a whole lot of walking involved with my job compared to when I was registered nurse at the bedside. And then my 9-year-old, sports, so going to all of his sporting events and cheering him on, and yeah, mom life.
Yeah, right. Love it. So tell everyone like how did you stumble upon my coaching and or my page? Like how did you even come around to like my program and find out about what I do or how I help my clients?
Facebook, a friend had posted it, and I didn't even talk to her about it, and just kind of decided, yep, that's where I need to be. I knew I needed help. You know, put up the white flag and said, I surrender. I need help. And I had signed up with someone else to do something, but because I work for Ohio Health, I was fortunate enough to learn that only registered dietitians in the state of Ohio can prescribe a diet based on calories, macros, etc. So when I learned about Joey, I jumped ship and went this route.
Yeah, there's a lot a lot of people, even in Ohio, coaches who are not registered dietitians who do like what I do. Even if they're not treating certain medical conditions, they're giving specific targets of you need to eat this amount of this and that. And it's a big issue within like the whole nutrition coaching realm is that there's just a lot of gray area, hard to regulate and all that. But I'm sure it like felt good for you signing up with someone who is a registered dietitian. It isn't just
Yes.
some like random coach online. Um, do you know who it was? Like what friend you saw? Like did they post about it? I think maybe.
Yeah, Megan Hill.
Oh, okay, cool. So you saw her post about it, and that was like, oh, like let me check this out. So
Yeah.
where were you in terms of like your health, your body composition, how you felt in your own skin? Like at that point when you saw that post by Megan and you kind of looked into my page, like where were you? And kind of even go back if you have to, previous years of just where you got to that point too. Like what kinds of things you tried, leading up to that.
So I did a buy my product, eat my fueling diet, which I did lose the weight, right? I was skinny, but I also wasn't getting any steps. I wasn't lifting weights because it was contraindicated because you're in such a starvation mode. Um, and I did gain every single pound. I found them all back and then some more. Um, but where I was, it's
Wait, was
almost hurt.
it the Big O? Was it the O
Yeah, yeah,
diet? Octavia.
yeah. Yeah. So, and I learned nothing. That was probably the biggest, like looking back now, I learned nothing. Um, I didn't learn what I like to eat, how my family operates. Was it incredibly convenient and easy? Absolutely. But I learned nothing, and it obviously wasn't sustainable. where I was before I said, "Yep, I'm doing this." I was in such a bad place. So bad. I was a daily drinker, drinking alcohol every day, getting probably blackout drunk a couple nights a week. My husband and I had separated. Um, so we put our son through that. I I didn't realize how sedentary I had gotten. And up until, pregnancy, I was super active. Half marathons, marathon, just working out all the time. Super, super active. So for me, looking back now, like barely getting 5,000 steps a day and not doing anything in addition, like, wow, I was holding down the couch. And people were like nicely jabbing me about that. Oh, Diana's holding down the couch. And yeah, I was. But, I was in a bad place. Not healthy, not happy. Um, so yeah, that's where I was, and drinking way too much to numb so many things that I thought needed numbed.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Well, a couple of things I want to like dive into that. But the first thing that
super.
you mentioned with Octavia, Octavia, and let's go with that first. So the Octavia thing, right? You did
Hmm.
that, and you lost a lot of weight. It sounds like, but then you just ended up gaining it back because you didn't learn anything, and also you lost it in a very unsustainable way. And a big thing you mentioned with this, and I've had multiple conversations with clients, other people about this, and the huge issue around this is, like you said, you're eating such low calorie that they tell you not to work out because like you just don't have the fuel for it. But also, and I did a podcast episode on this probably a couple of months ago, which is, and I can't prove this, but there are probably companies that tell you not to work out because you actually see changes in the scale faster when you don't work out and you lose muscle versus when you do work out and you keep that muscle. Not only just from like a pound to pound difference, but, and I won't go into like the exact science necessarily with this, but a pound of fat has around 3,500 calories. So if you were to eat 3,500 calories less than what you burn in a week, you're going to lose about a pound of fat if you're losing the body fat for that. But a pound of muscle only has 400 calories
Oh
roughly.
my goodness.
So the rest of that muscle is water that just comes with it. So if you were to lose, let's say, 3,500 calories worth of muscle, like you're burning 3,500 calories from your muscle, which happens when you don't work out and don't lift weights as you lose the weight, that's going to be almost like 9 to 10 pounds of actual weight you see in the scale, even though it's the same amount of energy coming from your body, but because it's coming from muscle, there's more water that comes from it. So you see a more drastic change in the scale when you lose a lot of muscle versus when you lose a lot of fat. It's a slower change. And that with these like diet companies is like, oh, well, I did Octavia and I lost 10 pounds in a week. I feel really good because I saw this change on the scale. And it like, like I said, I can't prove they're telling people not to exercise because they know that and they know you're going to see a more dramatic change on the scale. But it would be a good reinforcer for those companies to like somebody to keep doing that diet or keep trying it over and over because they know they saw this drastic change on the scale. If
That's
that makes
the other
sense.
thing about that. Like, I kick myself in the tail now. Like, why did I do that to my body? Like, how much muscle did I lose that I'm now like trying to gain back? I'm in my 40s. I'm not getting muscle easy now. Like, it's not like 10 years ago in my 30s, or, it's so why did I do that? Why did I compromise my muscles? Like, you know what I mean? Like, my musculoskeletal system, period.
Yeah.
Like,
And the thing is like some people might think, oh, I don't really care if I have that much muscle. Like, I don't care to look jacked or all of this. But muscle has so many health benefits, even if you don't even look that jacked. Like, it helps with blood sugar control, helps you to just be stronger so you can prevent falls as you age, which is huge. Like, once you get older and you break a hip or something like that can really take a toll on your health when you age. Also, obviously the quality of life benefits of just being stronger and being able to do
mhm.
more things with that muscle that you have. And also it helps to keep your like BMR or your metabolic rate, your metabolism is just a little bit higher, like with more muscle, which allows you to eat a little bit more food while living your life, which is a benefit. Um, yeah, so I'm always for eating more food.
Yeah.
um, so diving back into kind of, you know, where you were before you joined, um, what was it about? Like, was there anything that I posted that like really connected with you, or was it just simply like Megan's post that really connected with you? Were you kind of like skeptical of like, okay, is this really worth it, or like, what were those feelings like then?
So I knew I needed help. I knew I needed guidance in macros and calories, and I like lifting weights, and I didn't want to do like all the burpees and all that jazz. I wasn't going to hop
How many
around.
burpees have you done so far in the program?
Zero, zero.
Awesome.
I am not a bunny. I do not hop around. um, So I wasn't skeptical until we met and then we talked, and I was skeptical about two things. Like, this guy, number one, no cardio. Like, I'm a runner. How are you going to tell me I don't have to like get on the treadmill and run 30 minutes, 3 times a week? I just have to get steps. So I was like, I thought you were crazy. Um but that was, now in retrospect, the most liberating thing was getting my mindset change. Like, I don't have to do cardio. I just have to go for a walk and get my steps. I just have to move. Like, so yeah, the learning there, the skepticism that I had, this mindset like gotta get cardio to burn the fat. It wasn't true. And the other thing that I was skeptical about, because I thought that I needed somebody to say, Diana, you need to eat this, this, and this every day. This is what you're eating. This is what you need to get at the grocery store. This is what you need to do. So when you just gave me bumpers and said, go eat, my friend, I'm like, but I don't know how. You did give me the tips and the other ideas for the calories and the protein and whatnot, but another learning, the other program that I had looked at, she was going to tell me what to eat and what to buy at the grocery store. I'm not her. I don't likely eat like her. I probably didn't have time to meal plan like her. Oh, by the way, I got finished my master's degree in the last 6 months. So add that to my list of things like in the introduction. Because my Sunday mornings weren't for meal prep. My Sunday mornings were for getting my master's done. So I thought I needed that, but as it turns out, what I needed was the bumpers. I needed the guidance to say, hey, this is what you need to get, however it works best for you, Diana. Like, I'm not going to tell you you have to eat this recipe because you may not like it. You just gave me bumpers, which again, now I can look at a meal and I'll put it into MyFitnessPal, but before I do, I look at it and I'm like, okay, this is about what I think it is. I know how many grams of protein, calories. So the learning with that and having a lifestyle slash diet that is sustainable, because it's me driving the ship, steering the ship, captaining, driving the car. I don't know.
Yeah,
Conducting
no,
the
it's a
train.
good analogy. No, I've loved all of that. The cardio thing. Yeah, it's people think that it's some magic tool for fat loss, and some people dive into all of this of, okay, like now I'm burning fat for fuel versus this for fuel if they do different zones of cardio and everything. And there's a big difference between burning something for fuel, like the fat or carbohydrates, versus actually burning like body fat. And like the difference in whether you're burning actual body fat or not versus just like the nutrients comes down to the overall, like where your calories are versus what you're burning. It's not as simple as just always decreasing calories all the time, like we've kind of talked about with the priming phase and all this kind of stuff. But like that's what it comes down to. And you can achieve that difference that you need from just walking and just being active throughout the day, and regularly strength training so you keep that muscle around, and then making the appropriate nutrition changes, those simple things, those bumpers that you talked about. Changing those is what's going to ultimately get you there. And people are really surprised when I tell them like, oh, like you don't have to do any cardio unless you like it. If like I have clients who like it and they want to do it, and there are health benefits to doing some cardio and getting your heart rate up, for sure. But when it comes to fat loss, it's just not necessary. And like you said, that's a very freeing thing when you realize that, because then it gives you the freedom to, like the step goal, to be able to do other things that are more productive or that are fun while getting the step goal. Like you can help reach your step goal going grocery shopping, which kills two birds with one stone. You can help reach your step goal doing yard work outside or something, which helps to do two things at once,
It's not fun.
versus, okay, I got to go on my elliptical for 30 minutes and
Yeah.
do that and be secluded from the outside world, like it doesn't have to be that way. And then I love what you said about the bumpers and the meal plan thing and all of that, right? Like, and like you said, I give clients a 1 day sample meal plan in the very beginning to give them a rough idea. They have meal ideas and stuff like that. But a lot of people do come to me with this idea that they want someone to tell them what to eat, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day, every single day. But that's not really what you want, because then you're
Really
going to
is.
be, if I were to do that, you'd be in this prison of these are the only meals I'm allowed to eat or else I'm off my plan. Whereas with the calorie range, the protein range, those bumpers with, guidance and help on how you could put meals together, that allows you to just eat like quote unquote whatever you want, obviously within reason, but whatever you
Right.
want to hit those ranges. And it allows you, like you said, to make it fit your life better of your food preferences. I could put a meal plan together and a meal of like chicken, rice, and broccoli with some kind of sauce. And if you don't like that sauce, it ruins the whole meal plan for you or something like that.
Yeah.
So I love that you pointed that out, because a lot of times what we think we need isn't necessarily what we actually need. And that's the difference between having, like, paying for a meal plan versus paying for a coach, or paying for a nutrition plan versus paying for a coach. Like me as a coach, I want you to learn skills along the way that's going to help you even after we're done working together. And you clearly have talked about like these skills that you've learned of being able to look at your plate and kind of get an idea of roughly how many calories, how many protein this is. So that way, sometimes if you don't track, like you're still able to kind of just like look at your plate and kind of have an idea of where it's at. And now you know how to put meals together, and you know what meals you like that help you to hit those goals, that help you to be successful. So I love that you brought that point up too, because people always ask like, hey, can you give me meal plans? And I'm like, I'm not going to write you out a 7 day meal plan, because one, it's not going to serve you long term, because you're just going to be reliant on it. You're not going to learn and you're not going to be successful afterwards. But also, chances you're actually going to follow it are like probably less than 1%, because someone's going to want to order pizza on Friday, and like you're going
Right.
to be completely lost on how to actually fit that in with like a strict meal plan.
Yeah.
Um, so those were the two things you were skeptical on. So
Hmm.
what made you decide to actually, I guess you kind of touched on it a little bit with like Megan's post and the fact that I'm a dietitian, but what pushed you over the edge of, I guess, those fears or those skepticisms to actually do it, like, and actually join the program?
I knew I needed help. Um, I needed that motivation, the accountability. So I waved the white flag. I knew that I was in a bad place and I was stuck. And quite honestly, I was going to spend money somewhere, right? I was either going to have to buy a whole new wardrobe because nothing fit, or I needed to get my body back and get help doing it. So, and I'm listening to this book, 101 Ways Essays to Change Your Thinking, and I was stuck in this really big no do gap. So I have a lot, like a lot of the knowledge I knew, but I just wasn't doing it. So my gap was getting bigger and bigger. So it was harder for me to just close it. And side note, with the steps and a lot of walking, I have listened to so many books and podcasts. Like it's just it I have grown so much in the last 6 months, mentally, spiritual, like all the ways. So anyways, so yeah, my knowledge, my no do gap was really wide, and I was just in a rut. I was stuck, and I needed help.
Yeah. So your no do gap. So you're meaning you felt like you knew what you needed to do, but you just weren't doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a position a lot of people feel like they're in. And um, I think, the only way around that is, I mean, obviously there are probably some things that like you didn't quite know with like the cardio and misconceptions there, but like even if you did know exactly what you needed to do and you just weren't doing it, if going all in and investing in something like this actually pushes you to do it so you get that end result you want, even if you feel like you knew all the information, then like it's worth it in my opinion because it gets you to that end result. It gets you to take action. It gets you to, stay accountable to what you need to do. Um, so when we got started, we started with like a priming phase for like 3 to 4 weeks of, and for you, we really didn't have to actually increase your calories too much from where they were. But we increased them a little bit by like a couple hundred from when you started and did that for a few weeks before starting a fat loss phase. Was that like weird to you, different, new? Like, were you surprised by that approach? Like, what were you thinking in that first phase? Or were you thinking, man, this is a waste of time? Like, why am I not immediately going into a fat loss?
I was anxious to get into fat loss. I could not wait. I'm like, all right, let's just do it already. But yeah, it was changing my mindset and my thinking, and I had to listen to some of the podcasts more than once, um, to best understand the rationale for the priming phase, and it makes complete sense. It worked. So, but yeah, I was itching to get into fat loss and just get going with it. But the way that we progressed too was really nice to start getting those steps up because I was super sedentary. So when you said 7,000 steps, I had to get on the treadmill. Like, and I was a 22-minute mile to like get that, get those 7,000 steps in. So the priming phase for me, I guess, was a good time for me to realize you just got to get up and you got to do it. And then the lifting the weights was in there too. But yeah, so now I can do like a 17-minute with my dog mile. So I've really gotten my time down. That's the competitive runner in me. So, but anyways, so the priming phase was good to get you primed, but I was
Yeah, and
anxious.
yeah, and that's another really important reason why I do that priming phase first. Even if somebody does come into the program and they are like eating right where they should be, like where their estimated maintenance is, always like at least 2 to 3 weeks, probably for sure three, maybe even close to four. I like to do the priming phase because usually there are other behaviors that we need to work on building and stacking too, like the steps, and even you mentioned previously here, like the alcohol intake, was something that we worked on, and then getting consistent with the workout routine. Like there's a lot of behaviors, not I wouldn't say a lot, but there are a handful that we have to kind of work on and get in check before we can really see the benefits of a fat loss phase. And being in a fat loss phase, like, you're eating a little bit less food during the fat loss phase. So it's a little bit tougher. And if you start a program where you're having to change your alcohol habits, having to change your workout habits, your step habits, on top of that, you're changing your eating habits to get more protein. And on top of that, you're eating a little bit less calories than what you burn. So you're feeling a little extra hunger in the fat loss phase, which is normal. It's like a lot at once. And the priming phase, even if you are already eating an appropriate amount of calories, it helps us to start, fixing our food choices a little bit, eating more protein, getting more steps, while not dealing with, oh, and also like you might be a little extra hungry. Like you can actually be full and satisfied while making those other changes, which mentally makes it so much easier too. So there's a big psychological benefit from the priming phase, along with like the physiological benefits too. So we went in a priming phase for like 3 to 4 weeks, and um, now fast forward to now, and as of like last week, if you compare where your heaviest weight was right before we started the fat loss phase to your lowest weight, like you've passed 20 pounds down, and like give or take on any given day, you're like 17 to 20 in that range, kind of. Um, so, what surprised you about the process, if anything, of like losing those 17 to 20 pounds? Was there anything that was surprising, like the way we implemented diet breaks, or how that worked, or how the fat loss phases went?
I don't know if anything surprised me because I did listen to the podcast and I understood like what was going to happen with the path. Probably the most surprising thing was how easy it was. I mean, it really is easy. You just have to be thoughtful and mindful, and that's all.
Yeah, no, I
So,
love it, and I think one reason why it probably felt so easy. I mean, there's multiple reasons, but I think a big one probably was those diet breaks and maintenance phases we
mhm,
took in between. And then even this most recent fat loss phase, those like
yeah.
maintenance days that we've had, in between the week too.
Mhm.
Because like your fat loss phases went like this. People hear that, okay, you lost 20 pounds. They're like, wow, like she must have went into this fat loss phase and really grinded for a few months, and then boom, you're down 20 pounds. But like we did it in incremental steps, which is how I do it with all my clients. Like when we started the fat loss phase, and I have these notes right here, we were in it for the first one roughly 6 to 7 weeks, and you lost roughly 8-ish pounds in that first fat loss phase. And then we had a diet break and a maintenance phase for like 2 to 3 weeks, brought calories back up to maintenance for that time period, then went into another fat loss phase. And this other fat loss phase was a little bit shorter. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say there was also an all-inclusive vacation in that first diet break. So, you know, I went to an all-inclusive resort, like, and I've still lost and sustained the loss of those. I'm not finding them, I promise. I'm not going to. Anyways, sorry.
Yeah, no, no, you're fine. And I don't even remember, I would have to look back, but I don't remember there was any like huge like weight gain or anything that you had at
Mhm.
the all-inclusive resort either. Like you had these simple strategies, but were able to like really enjoy yourself. Like you didn't track your food on vacation. You probably didn't work out on vacation either,
I
like at the
did.
all-inclusive. Oh, you
No,
did?
I did. Hmm.
Okay. So you did work out, but you probably weren't on the treadmill running for 30 minutes every day.
On the beach,
Um, yeah.
chasing my
So
kid.
so you were able to really enjoy your vacation while maintaining everything and not
Mhm.
going backwards during those moments too, because of the skills you've learned, right? If I would have given you, going back to the meal plan thing, literally just a strict meal plan, you probably wouldn't have had those skills to actually maintain your weight on vacation as well as you did.
Right.
Um, so after that first diet break, our next fat loss phase was around 4 to 5 weeks. That one, we only really lost like a few pounds. I mean, it was a little bit shorter of a fat loss phase, but we just lost like 3-ish pounds in that fat loss phase, which is still like progress, right? It's still moving in the right
Right.
direction. And then we did another diet break and then another fat loss phase the past like 7 to 8 weeks. And this one, things really took off. I know we took a little bit of a different approach with this one, with the calories throughout the week. And like you lost like 8 to 9 pounds in this fat loss phase so far. So, like, yeah, it's all been really chunks. And even all of these fat loss phases, and you probably honestly would be like good to implement a diet break or maintenance phase probably soon for a couple of weeks. Like none of these fat loss phases have been anything dramatic of losing like 15 pounds, 20 pounds all in one shot. It's all been incremental like chunks. And then you practice maintaining it, living your life, eating a little bit more food, learn how, to actually sustain your results while also giving your body a physiological break from the fat loss phase. And you lose a little bit more and just like slowly chip away. And that's how you really do it if you want to like do it sustainably and keep it off. Um, and so I think maybe something, I don't know if it was surprising to you, but a lot of times when I hear when people have like a journey like yours where it was like smaller chunks like that, they just like are surprised at like, wow, I'm actually down 20 pounds. Like because they lost it in such small chunks, it wasn't this like huge overhaul of like weight loss. And it almost like kind of jumps out at you out of nowhere. Like, oh, I'm down 20 pounds. Like that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. That that is what I experienced, and yeah, it was good. It's nice to see like the scale just like slowly go down, and then you just, for me, I used to have a Mayday weight, like Mayday, Mayday, gotta do something, like the 150. So, and you didn't know that, but the 150 was my Mayday weight, and so when I finally got back down to it, I was like, thank you God. And now I'm even further past it, so yeah, it's been good.
Yeah. So we already obviously touched on like the weight loss, and now you're down basically 20 pounds, 17 to 20, depending on weight fluctuations. But tell me and tell everyone else, like, where else are you at now compared to where you started? Like mentally, physically, any like big wins that you've experienced? And I think another thing, actually, I'll let you answer this and then I'll kind of touch on the idea that's in my head.
Okay. Where am I now? I am so much better. I'm gonna try not to cry because I know I cried with the where I was, because that was a really hard place. Where I am now, I am sober without alcohol a huge majority of the time. I do have an occasional drink, but nothing like where it was. So just the alcohol alone, I'm sleeping better, my anxiety's better. I just feel better. It's just there's no health benefit to it. Zero. Um, Way back when, so before the program, when my husband and I were in a bad place, I guess I was incredibly moody. He thought maybe I had bipolarism. I do not. Um, and now that I've been working out, he's like, "You are happy all the time," and I'm like, "I see the problem. I see where I went wrong here. You know, I am happier. I have always been at baseline just a really happy-go-lucky human, and I lost that along the way, and finally have it back. Um, I've expanded my thinking, because of the steps where I'm not like running, because I think when I run, my brain is preoccupied by form and breathing and all that stuff. So just walking allows me to listen to all these books, which have helped expand my thinking, and in all kinds of different genres. It's not just, I'm listening to psychology or whatever. I'm listening to romance and everything. Um, but yeah, so mind, body, spirit, everything, my relationship, knock on wood, my marriage is the best it's ever been in the existence of our marriage. And yeah, and my son, he's the sweetest. He's like, "Mom, you look really good." And I'm keeping up with him, and he likes to race me sometimes, and I still to this day will intentionally beat him. Um, there will be a day very soon that he will start beating me in a foot race, and it's going to be a sad day for me. So I'm taking all the wins I can get. He's only 9. So,
Yeah. That's awesome. So I loved so much of what you put in there, and the thing that was on my mind was, what you talked about before, of just how much you've been able to learn, not even just nutrition and fitness related, but just from other spots of listening to different podcasts or books, from the walking, and just putting that time aside for yourself to not only like work towards your goals, but also to just grow personally and mentally and psychologically. And it's so important. Like this journey, it's for a lot of people, it's about like losing weight. Like that's what they come into this with. Like they want to fit better in their clothes, or they want to see a different number on the scale. But if you really like approach it the right way and approach it as like just overall trying to grow as a person, on the inside and out, like you can really get so much out of this. And for you, I mean, it sounds like it's really changed your life hugely, like with, like you said, the habits you had with alcohol before and where you were at physically, mentally, emotionally, even with your, marriage, relationship, and that, and, where you are now. Like, if you wouldn't have done this, maybe you would still be at this point. You would have found a way to do this on your own, and maybe that would have happened, but maybe it wouldn't have. And like thinking back to where you'd be now if you didn't take the leap, it could be night and day difference. And it's wild how like doing something, I wouldn't even call it as simple, but as simple as joining like a program that is based on fitness and nutrition, but obviously, at least I hope there's a lot more of that, more than just that, that you got out of it, which it sounds like can like really just change your entire life, and the trajectory that you're on.
Absolutely.
Um, Go ahead. Were you going to say something?
No, I just said absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah, I wanted to get fit and lose the weight, and along the way, I gained so much more. Um, so I'm very grateful. I said yes, and thank you for being available.
yeah. Well, you should thank yourself for showing up and, being consistent and, putting in the work. And like, not every week was perfect, and that's okay, but you always showed up. I don't know if you ever really missed any check-ins that I can remember. Like even if you had an off week, like you still checked in and said, okay, this is where I'm at. Even if, mentally some weeks and you weren't quite there, like you still showed up and expressed that. And like, that's all I can ask for out of like any client is to just show up and, maybe not even give 100%, even just give like 85%, 90%, like show up and just try to improve, each week. Some weeks we don't improve, but we're transparent about it and we talk about our struggles. That way, like I can help you as much as I can, and that's what you did, and that's like why you're here. So you can thank me, but you should thank yourself too for showing up and doing that. Um, what other wins? Like let's say physical too. Obviously, you've had a ton of like mental and psychological, but physical. What kinds of things have you noticed? Obviously, other than being able to like run around, with your son more and stuff. Oh, the biceps are coming
Yeah,
out. So
yeah.
let's talk about that. What are some like physical wins you've experienced on this road of losing, these 20 pounds?
Yeah. So I even in the past years, this isn't a no-do gap. This is something that I have always done. I run a 5K pretty much every Saturday morning. There's something called Park Run. It's an international thing, so I'm going to plug that real quick because it's free, volunteer ran. It's throughout the United States. Google it, Park Run. Anyways, so I've been doing that for years, and the ease of which, like, it has gotten so much easier. And I'm not doing extra cardio. I'm not getting out there and running any extra days. I'm just getting my steps and doing my lifting. And because of the increased muscle tone, um, running is so much easier and more enjoyable. And like when I do go for my walks and I walk up our hill, like my thighs feel skinny. Like I still have, some chub rub, but it's the feeling of the muscle just feels tight and they feel thin. Like that is just really cool. I should have worn a tank because like in some of the meetings, where I'm sitting like this and I see like my muscles like developing and my collarbone starting to poke out. Like those are some of the physical getting out of the shower and like seeing my reflection and the muscle tone. Like yeah, those are the physical wins.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think you said in your last check-in too, you were like the weight you're at now was the weight you were either before pregnancy or like right during pregnancy, and you haven't been in there in years too.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, I was probably first, second trimester. I was a little bit less when I got pregnant. But I was also lifting weights probably three or four times a week and bedside nursing and running doing like 3 days. Like I probably had 7 workouts a week, like before I got pregnant. Um, so I was like 130 pounds, but so I do have a little ways to go, but yeah, so starting to see my abs come back. or the outline of abs. I'm getting rid of their protective layer. I'd like to say that we all have abs. We just have a protective layer keeping them safe. So I'm getting rid of that protective layer, but yeah, so it's been good. And I'm fitting into clothes. I'm a hoarder. Not really a hoarder, but I'm a keeper. So I'm getting into clothes that, are pre-pregnancy, which is fantastic.
Yeah, no, I love that, and it's been really cool to just like listen to you or see you share those wins like in your check-ins every week or whenever too. So how many days a week are you lifting now? Because is it 6 days, 7 days, anything crazy? Like what is your lifting schedule?
3. And it takes less than 45 minutes. Usually 30 to 45 minutes is how long it takes. 3 days a week.
Yeah, and that's another big misconception that people have too is that they need to be in the gym working out like 5, 6, 7 times a week when like that's not the case. 3 times a week. Honestly, a lot of my clients they just lift weights 3 times a week, and that's their workout schedule. Some are on 4, but a lot of them are on 3, and like that's a really great schedule for like the everyday person who doesn't want like the gym or working out to be their lifestyle, but they or not lifestyle, but they don't want it to be their life, and they just want to like maintain an active lifestyle, see the results, stay healthy, get strong, see some muscle gain. Like that's a perfect kind of workout split to go on and perfect frequency. And the results that you've gotten with that, with just a simple step goal and the nutrition changes, is like a perfect example of that.
Easy.
Yeah.
Get that
So
done.
so anything just really quickly that like any like beliefs that you had before this of like, oh, this like won't work for me, or like any limiting beliefs of like, I don't know if I can follow through with this, like, because I'm struggling with this, like, what were some barriers or thoughts that you thought of like why this might not work for you?
I don't know that I had any at the start. I mean, I think during it, 10,000 steps, some weeks was a huge challenge just with work and seat time, getting my son to and from whatever and sporting events. So, um, yeah, and that's still something that I'm working on is the wake up and just get it done, get a chunk done and just move on. But um honestly, alcohol was a huge barrier for me and something I wasn't sure that I could get control back over because it truly was controlling me. And I did. And it's not that you that's another thing that I can thank you for is you never criticized me. I didn't feel judged when I'm like, "Yep, I drank over 10 again this week. Yep, I drank over 10 again this week." It was always, "Diana, just keep work on getting it down." And then, I was finally able to like overcome those barriers and then it was the mindset shift that you suggested with like improving my or not improving, but changing my identity. Like I don't have to go to these social settings and drink alcohol. um there is zero health benefit. Like there's no reason to do it. So, um I don't know, limiting beliefs to begin with. No, I think I was just so ready to get going and everything
Yeah.
made sense.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing about alcohol was a perfect example of that, of just that being a part of your life at that time that you felt like wasn't something you were going to be able to overcome, right? But you did and you have. And um there was probably so many conversations in your head that you had yourself to help get you, to this point where you're at now. And I'm grateful that like the way I approach things help too, right? And I try to like really with all of my clients, whether it's alcohol or it's like somebody's, getting McDonald's every single day and they're going way over their calories or something. When there's some kind of behavior that we want to change, that is not serving us and it's hurting our results or our physical health or even our mental health, like there's no judgment on my end. I'm just there to be like, hey, this is what you're doing. If you want to see this result and you keep doing this, it's going to be really tough or you won't be able to get there. So we have to change that And there's no judgment around it either way, but it's just that's just what needs to be done. And obviously, like educating you on, and you already probably knew this, but like, the negative health effects of, the alcohol intake or the negative health effects of this, like educating around like why it's so important to bring that down or change that behavior. And then, obviously giving you tools of different ways of thinking with like the identity shift and thinking about it in that way. I'm glad that really helped, because it is like, because I've had this conversation with other clients too. Actually, yeah, other clients, I'll just never mind. But other clients I've had this conversation with too of just like going to social events and always feeling like they just have to have a drink, even like for no reason. And it's like just because you've always lived your life that way, or maybe you grew up watching your parents always have a drink every time they go to a social event, doesn't mean that that's what like your reality has to be. Like you might think that's normal, but you could go to another state, go even just across town, drive 20 minutes down the road to a different family and different household, and this person's reality is totally different where they just never drink alcohol ever. And it's like it's just once we kind of realize that every way we view life of what we think is normal and not normal is all just literally kind of like learned behavior, at least most of it. And it's
Mhm.
just based on like what we've been exposed to and what we've learned. It makes it easier to realize we can unlearn those things, just as quickly as we like learn them. Um, so I'm really glad that that helped. Um, so what what would you say, because we're getting on like 40 minutes here, so what would you say is to somebody who is in the same boat as like you were in before, like they were came across my page, from maybe a friend or something, and they really want to make this change, but maybe let's say they're even a little bit more skeptical than you were, and they're kind of worried if this is going to work, if it's going to be hard, if it's going to fit in their lifestyle. Like, what would you say to someone kind of on the fence about taking the leap?
Do it. 10 out of 10 recommend. um, you just, if you're skeptical and you're nervous, you might be at the same point that I was where your no do gap is great and you need to do something to start closing that gap. And um I found that program to be overall easy. I had a lot of things to change, but they were slow in change. That was staggered. Um, the mindset shifts along the way have it, they're sustainable. They're sustainable changes that I feel like I can continue for a lifetime. And I was walking with somebody during a lunch and just getting my steps in. And she said, "Are you training for anything?" And I said, "Life." And I had this vision of me being a 73-year-old woman in the gym, just going at it, getting my weights in. Um, but yeah, training for life, really. So just do it. Go for it. Don't really have
Yeah.
anything to lose except fat.
Yeah, which is what most people want anyway when they're thinking about joining. So it's a good thing. So cool. Well, I really appreciate you coming on here, Diana, and sharing your story. Any like just really quick, and it's okay if there's nothing else, but any like last words or any last thoughts that you like wanted to share that you wanted people to hear that you didn't get to share yet?
No, I think I shared everything that I could think of. I've truly enjoyed my experience. Yeah, I'm so glad I said yes. Let's do this.
Yeah,
So,
I'm so glad you did too, because it's been awesome being able to just get to know you and work with you and see the growth, on the inside and out along this way. And I'm excited to see just like how much further you go with everything too. So um, awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on here. This was a second take too. We tried a couple days ago and my technology was not working out. So appreciate you coming on here again. But um, cool. Well, we'll wrap this up, and I'm sure, like, if anybody has any questions, they can, reach out to me or even reach out to you, maybe, Diana,
for
if
sure.
if they have any questions. Um, but yeah, we'll end this here, and we'll see you guys in the next one then.